welcome to Tales Beyond the Grave. Welcome back to another video, and I'm here in Agecroft Cemetery, and I'm coming here because the last three videos people have really enjoyed watching them, the trilogy of Wee Cemetery, and I'm going to tell you more ghost stories which are connected to Agecroft Cemetery I didn't really know about until I researched it. So I'm going to take you around, and just behind me is an old gothic chapel as well, and there's some ghost stories connected to that. So let's have a walk round and I'll tell you some ghost stories. So this is Agecroft Cemetery, and it was opened in 1903, and to date it has over 58,000 interments here, and it spans over 45 acres of land, and it's a land very close to the River Irwell, which just lies beyond these graves here. Just on my right here is the memorial stone to the crashed Lancaster bomber. Now, the PB-304 Lancaster bomber crashed at Regatta Street just down the road in July 1944. It got into difficulties just after takeoff, and it was carrying a full bomb load as well, and it clipped some of the houses at Regatta Street, killing civilians and also killing all 7 members of the Royal Air Force crew. And this is the memorial stone to that crash, which just happened sort of like just down the road, and it clipped the houses and crashed into the banks of the River Irwell. And every so often you get a Lancaster bomber come over, flies over, and tipped its wings when it's a special anniversary. So the building to my right is now the crematorium, but it was once a non-conformist chapel, and it was converted into the crematorium in 1957, and since then it has carried out over 60,000 cremations. Also in the cemetery, a lot of people seem to forget it, and I'm going to take you up to show it you. There's a remembrance garden for people who was lost in the Manchester and Salford Blitz during World War II. I'm going to take you up to see that now, because a lot of people just walk past it and don't actually go in and have a look at it. So let's go and have a look at that. So this is the little memorial I was telling you about to the Salford Blitz, and people drive past this and walk past it, but if you come in and have a look, it's the memorial for the citizens of Salford who lost their lives in the air raids on the city during World War II, and they're interred here in this little plot. But you've got to look at the names on it, or the ages. If you look at the ages, most of them are young children, young kids, teenagers, also older citizens. Not many young men on there. Most of the young men was away fighting for king and country. But yeah, if you're passing, come in and have a look and pay some respects to the people we lost during World War II. Now, also buried in the cemetery, and it featured on one of my very first YouTube videos I did, and that is the grave of Martin Ruan. And if you don't know who Martin Ruan is, he was one of my heroes from the 1970s wrestling world of sport, better known as Giant Haystacks, the baddie. And he was far from a baddie. He was a really nice man, because I got to meet him. But I'll show you Martin's grave, and but if you want to go back and have a look at my first video I did in Agecroft Cemetery, it's on there. So let's go and have a look at that one. So laid to rest here on the Catholic side of the cemetery is this headstone here, and that is of Martin Ruan, Giant Haystacks, and always portrayed as a baddie was Giant Haystacks, but he was my favourite. I look forward to World of Sport on a Saturday afternoon with watching Giant Haystacks versus Big Daddy. But that is the grave of Martin Ruan. So I'm just going to take you now over to the old Gothic chapel, and I'm going to tell you what I'm here for, and it's to tell you some ghost stories connected to Agecroft Cemetery. Now, I didn't know some of these ghost stories were connected until recently. I've done a bit of research and found that there's some spirits and apparitions attached to the cemetery. And also I'm going to tell you about an experience I had while I was here once on my own, and I'm going to tell you I'll show you where that happened as well. So come on, let's go over to the old Gothic chapel. So here we are. This is the old Gothic chapel and the clock tower. Now locals have claimed to have experienced unexplained footsteps echoing around the chapel, and also disembodied voices, whispers and sudden cries often heard around dusk, coming from inside. Shadows have often been seen behind the broken glass windows inside the chapel, and also apparitions have been seen walking through the arches where you can see. Now the clock itself is said to chime at irregular times during the middle of the night. Very spooky. It's also reportedly to be haunted inside by that of a former gravedigger. Now the gravedigger had lost his wife and his children to the TB epidemic. Unable to cope with this, he took himself up to the clock tower and hung himself. His body was found and he was buried in an unmarked grave within the cemetery. Now another connected haunting to the chapel is that of a nurse, and she was from the times of the Spanish flu epidemic, whose spirit lingers around the chapel steps. And people claim to have seen the ghost of this nurse in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform, and when approached, she takes herself behind the church and fades away into the tree line. Now a couple of ghost hunters once got inside the chapel to do a vigil in there, and they was a bit shocked by what they saw. They saw shadow figures and apparitions within there, and also got very high meter readings on the EMF meters. Also around the back of the chapel, people walking dogs have said the dogs have a feel of uneasiness when they walk behind the back of the chapel and seem to cower. Do they sense something we can't see? So Agecroft Cemetery, I've been coming here since as far back as I can remember, but also connected to the area is some ghost stories which I do know about, and one of them is just over here, which is over the river. There is Kersal Cell, which was as a link to the monks. Now underneath Kersal Cell is supposed to be tunnels, escape routes for the monks, and they span from Kersal Cells all the way to Salford and Manchester Cathedral. I know they're probably still there, but like I say, they'll be blocked up, so you can't go down them. But they're also linked to the old Victorian sewer system, and some of the sewer workers what used to go down there refused to go deep into the underground tunnels because they reckon they could hear cries and wailing and people's voices, and they reckon these were linked to probably old sewer workers which maybe have been killed down there, but also to plague victims as well. So when they have to go in and clear the sewers, they refuse to go into certain parts when they start getting deep into the underground network of Salford. Now another thing connected to the area, not just Agecroft Cemetery, but the area, is the phantom coach and horses. Now this coach and horses is often heard in the dead of night. The wheels rolling and the horses' hooves can be heard, and it's said to occur around the Salford, the Swinton and the Eccles area. And it's said if you hear this phantom coach, it's the bearer of bad news for death or disaster. Have you ever heard it? Let me know. Now another ghost story connected to the area which I do know about is that of the evil mill owner Black Douglas. And if you go back on Daft Monkey's videos and watch his video on Black Douglas, an amazing story he told, and Black Douglas is supposedly haunting the area of Whit Lane in Salford. So the story of Black Douglas, this evil despicable mill owner who used child labour to make his fortune in the mills which he owned, and he was cruel, and what he used to do was beat the children, some as young as 8-year-old. He'd recoup them from deprived areas and offer them schooling, education, and church as well. And what he would do was make them work long 18-hour days, and these kids would fall asleep at the machinery, and he'd walk around with this big stick and he'd beat the children if they fell asleep. Now, what he did do was, any of them which had had enough and tried to escape, he would scour the streets of Salford on his black stallion horse, in his cape and his hat, just like an old Victorian gentleman. How you can imagine that. And he'd look for them, and if he found any of his employees, he would drag them back to the mills, and he would beat them severely, that some of them did die. Now, Black Douglas's ghost is said to haunt the area of Whit Lane, which is just down the road really, and his ghost is said to walk the streets and the parks of Whit Lane looking for escaped children. And it's also, his horse has been heard with him along the banks of the River Irwell, where his mill once stood. And that is a story what stuck with us since we were kids. Whit Lane kids will all tell you they know the story of the evil Black Douglas. Now, I'm going to tell you about the experience I had when I was here. We've got a family grave just over here, and I was tending that grave one day, normal day, and I just managed to look down over the older section over there. So I'm just going to take to the exact spot where I saw this figure. So what did I see that day? I was stood here where I am now, and I was looking down at the stones over there, not this section here, but the further section there, and I could see a little old lady sort of like crouching down, struggling to clean a grave, and she was tending a grave just down there in between here. And I could recognise her straight away. She had brown, like lady slack pants on and a blue cardigan. And I was watching her because I was concerned. I thought, she's trying to bend down and clean this grave, and she was really struggling. And I thought, she's not going to be able to get back up. So I was just watching her to see if she fell or anything like that. I managed to look away and then look back, and the lady had gone. And I thought, well, there was no car park there. There was no way this lady could have run. She looked so bad on her legs. So I walked down to see if she'd fell behind a stone or something like that. And when I got down there was not a soul about, as you can see today, just like this it was. Not a soul about. So was that a ghost of a lady I saw down there? Was she tending a grave? Was it her husband's grave, a family grave? Was it her grave? I don't know. But yeah, that is the experience I had, and I can't explain that because this woman would not have been able to move away from that area in a split second. So we've come to the end of the video. Hope you've enjoyed this tour of Agecroft Cemetery here in Salford. Interesting cemetery, and especially with the ghost stories connected to the old chapel. Hope you don't have any nightmares anyway. So thanks for watching. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up if you would. Please like and share, and also if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It does help. It encourages me to go out there and make videos which I think you might be interested in. So on to the next one. I always say it, don't I? At the end of the video, I don't know where I'm going on the next one. I'll see you when I get there though. See ya. Bye.